How's it going, everybody? Just a really quick video today. I wanted to go over something I've been working on, and some of you who've been following my channel seen some shorts about a new cage I've been developing for the original Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera, holding the plastic prototype right here in my hand. I'm hoping to be going into production here in a couple of weeks. And so prior to that, I wanted to give a chance to give a little bit of overview to the viewers, to the people that might be interested in buying this, and also a chance for them to give some feedback to me prior to me placing the order on a lot of this stuff. Now, it's not just the cage that I've been developing. I've also been working on some accessories to go with it. Most of the prototypes you'll see today are currently 3D printed plastic. However, once I go into production on this, the majority of the pieces will be CNC machined out of aluminum 6061 T6 strength, anodized black. So most of these will be fully metal parts. The plastic parts will be injection molded, and there will be, of course, one part, the wooden handle I'll discuss in a minute, that will be made out of wood. Now, really quick before I dive into it, in the description below there is a link to a Google form. You'll see questions in there such as your willingness to buy this camera, what sort of accessories you would be interested in purchasing as well after watching this video, as well as a place for you to put your email address so that you can be notified as soon as I start pre-orders on these. So first off, getting right into it, the cage itself, as you can see, is a familiar design that is an all-encompassing style cage. The camera essentially fits in through the back and is secured through the top and the bottom by 1/4-20 screws holding it into place. It then completely encases the camera and provides a little bit of lip separation from the actual screen itself. The majority of the cage is covered in 1/4-20 threaded mounting points on the top, bottom, and both sides. As you can see, all of those will be threaded, so you can add any sort of accessories, top handle, monitor mounts, whatever you need to help you in getting this rigged out. Now, a couple of design elements I've added to this cage right here, you can see is a little bit of a thumb nub. I found that when using the camera, and you'll see this in the design of the actual Pocket 4K, a lot of times it's really nice to have a little thumb nub right here to kind of help you get a better grip of the camera itself. There are a couple of 3/16 holes on the top and bottom, so if you're using a tripod or a gimbal that has multiple mounting options, one being the 1/4-20, one being the 3/16, you can use the larger screw size and the smaller screw size together to mount this. The cage will also be shipping with an insert in case your tripod only has the option for 1/4-20 mounts. You can simply put that adapter insert into the 3/16 and allow you to use 2 1/4-20s to get this mounted to whatever it is you're throwing it on. Now, the next thing I designed for this cage is a LCD hood to clip into place. As you can see, it sits flush with the actual cage itself. It's got lots of coverage on the side, sticks out on the top, and this is to add a little bit of extra shielding from the sun when you're using this outside without a monitor, relying solely on the screen. This should allow you to view the screen itself quite a bit better. As you can see, the extensions that go around the cage are both on the inside and on the outside of the hood. So once this is in place, it fully encompasses the screen to prevent any light leakage. Now, it does slide into place and holds on pretty firmly. However, if it's not quite enough for you, I've added holes to the hood on the top and bottom that line up with the 1/4-20s of the cage, so you can simply bolt this into place and keep it locked down for your use. Now, this will be made out of injection molded plastic, which means it'll be a lot more durable. Now, a lot of you know with the included Blackmagic design body cap, as well as nearly every Micro Four Thirds mount cap that I've seen, there is nothing really keeping this in place. It easily kind of just slides on and off. So one thing that I developed for this is a locking cap. So I've added a special slot into this so when it turns in, it clicks into place and it cannot be released unless you release the lens locking mechanism. Now, this one right now in the prototype form is 3D printed. The final one will either be injection molded or, if possible, also machined out of aluminum. Similar to the hood is a back cover. There are holes on the cage itself, both on the top and the bottom, that line up to sort of clip it into place, and it stays on there pretty securely. However, again, just like the hood, you can again add 1/4-20 screws to the top and the bottom to lock it into place so that it cannot come off unless those screws are removed. Now, the idea behind both this back cap and this cover was that you could ideally, in this form, just throw this camera as so into your camera bag, forget about it, and not worry about any sort of damage happening to this, either cosmetically or mechanically, with the damage of the back screen or the cap falling off and allowing dust or damage to land on the sensor. Now, of course, this is not what the actual final colors will be. The back cap will also be black plastic. Now, one thing that has recently been mentioned to me by people that have been following what I've been doing with this cage, people are asking if there's going to be a transparent clear plastic backing for this as a screen cover. Now, I had not planned on designing something like that. In my mind, I don't really see the purpose of putting a clear plastic on the back. The screen on the BMPCC OG is difficult enough to see, and I don't see that a plastic bit of plexiglass will make that any easier to see. In my experience, it's unlikely that damage to the screen would occur during actual use. It would happen during transportation, which is why I created the back. However, again, I've got that Google form below for everyone to fill out. If enough people were to say, yes, I would like to have a clear, transparent back option as well so that I can see the screen and protect it during use, I still have some time. I could try and get something developed prior to going into production. Now, the next most vulnerable part of this camera, as many of you know, is the micro HDMI port on the side. And a lot of cages didn't have adequate cable locks for that. So I've developed one. This is very similar to the cable lock that was on the wooden camera style cage. And in fact, this one that I've created for this cage is compatible with wooden camera cage. So if you have one of those, but you've been searching for the HDMI cable lock, you can purchase this and it will work with that cage as well. And I've crafted it and adapted the cage for it to work here. Of all the cages I've used, I found that the wooden camera style cable lock is the most secure, and so that's why I wanted something similar to it to work with this cage. Now, another piece of this that was mentioned to me several times as a need by a lot of BMPCC OG users is a way to lock Metabones or Viltrox speed boosters to the cage itself while in use. When you're using a speed booster, you have 2 points of attachment. Obviously the speed booster to the body of the camera, and then the lens to the speed booster. And if both of those aren't fully locked into place, you do risk, and this has happened to me, one of them disconnecting from the other unexpectedly, which can cause either damage to the camera, the speed booster, or the lens. But that is fixed with mount like this, which attaches to the speed booster and then attaches to the cage itself. Now, these are pretty common on cages for the 4K. You don't see a lot of them for cages for the pocket camera, but I made sure to build that into this design. This lines up with the screws on the bottom, both for the Viltrox, if that's what you're using, or the Metabones. And it simply lines up, and then included screws will attach the adapter to the speed booster. You will then fix the speed booster onto the camera and then line up the holes of the adapter to the holes on the cage and bolt those into place. And once in place, it'll sit completely flush with the cage. There'll be no protrusion on the bottom. It'll be locked to the speed booster, locked to the cage, so that there is no way to risk the speed booster separating from the cage unless you, again, remove the screws holding it in place, and you now only have 1 point of connection to worry about, which is the lens to the speed booster. Now, just in case you're using another adapter that isn't the speed booster, such as a PL mount that has a foot attached to it as well, I did create a universal style adapter that will go in place of this. This will work with the Metabones as well if you leave the foot on it. This is a part that I'm not sure I will produce or not. Again, if this is something you want and need with this cage design, please let me know in the Google form. If there's not a high enough demand, I don't know that I'll go into production with this part. Personally, I think it's not quite as clean as the one designed specifically for the speed booster, because it will sit lower than the cage itself, because the legs of most of those larger adapters, the PL mount, they're longer than the body of the cage. So it will protrude down, but it will work much the same that the adapter secures to the cage and secures to the foot of the lens adapter, locking everything into place. It just won't sit quite as clean and flush as the one for the Meta Bones. Something else that a lot of people have seen with similar style cages as this that is in somewhat of demand is a handle. Now this will be made out of wood. I'm still working exactly on how I want the design to be, whether it's with a 90-degree or an angled. It will secure to the front through the 1/4-20 screws, lock into place, and then will kind of give you a little bit of added beef and grip when using this within the cage. Again, if you do not buy this, obviously this has been made a little bit more comfortable to shoot with without it due to the added thumb nub and the finger grips that I've put into the front of the cage. However, this will be available as well if you want to add a little bit more beef to the grip of the camera. Now the final piece that I have created for this is a 15mm rod mount. I've noticed that a lot of the 15mm rail mounts that are currently on the market are not tall enough to fix all accessories that are oftentimes needed when rigging this out for larger scale production work. If you see my video about using this on a feature film, you're adding follow focuses, you're adding battery packs and all kinds of stuff to help you use this to a higher capacity. What happens is if you're using like the typical small rig adapter that's readily available on Amazon, it sits the rails just too close to the base of the lens. Because this is such a low profile camera, the lenses will be almost making contact with those rails. And so when you're trying to slide on your accessories, you oftentimes will come in contact with the lens and you almost have to remove the camera, slide those in place, and reattach the camera to the rail mount if you don't have enough clearance between your lens and your rails, which is why this piece itself, as you can see, is elevated from the rails to where the base of the camera sits on. This will also make sure that your lens is sitting high enough up so that when a matte box is in place, it lines up with the hole on the matte box. Right now, I'm speaking to you at the beginning of April. I hope to put in the order for all these parts. I'm still waiting on the quotes from the various machine shops, injection mold shops, woodworking shops to see which shop I'm gonna go with. Once I have those quotes in place and know what the bulk amount is that I have to buy in order to keep the prices reasonable for all this, I will place the order. I'm hoping that those orders will be fulfilled by beginning or mid-May, with these ready to ship by the end of May or the beginning of June. Now, as for pricing, I'm hoping to keep it affordable. I am willing to ship anywhere in the world. If you want to stay notified on all of these when pre-order is ready, when production has been launched, again, in that Google form below, there's a place for you to enter your email address so that I can send out direct notifications to you. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned, more to come on this cage and the design, as well as the expected launch date. Like I said, hoping to go into production on these very, very soon, within a couple of weeks. Let me know if you're interested, and yeah, we'll see you next time.